got a topic for you that you need to pay attention to. Now, on one of the social media platforms, there's a gentleman named Yusuf El. Now, Yusuf El is a very intelligent man. There's no doubt about it. But he tells a story that I would like to convey to you the way he told it in his topic, but I need to add a little bit something to it. I'm not sure either he doesn't know or he doesn't say. I'm not sure which it is. But given the way the man speaks and his confidence in his speech, well, it's pretty obvious he's took a look at the law and taken it to himself. So here's what I need you to understand. That when you go into a court, it's all about your standing. That's what he promotes. Are you in the private or are you in the public? What is your standing position? He teaches you to challenge them courts on their standing. On what law and authority are they acting on? He makes this all these really spectacular points about, well, let's just go through a few of them. So some of the key points he talks about is the court tries to intimidate you. Now, that's a fact. If you get into that court, you're nervous, you're scared. This is an unusual situation. You've been charged with something. You have every right to be nervous, and it's okay to be so. But you need to be confident to know that each side has their own rules they have to follow. And don't you forget that. And if one side is perpetrating an act that is illegal or unconscionable, well, you might want to pay attention to that part too. And we're going to get to that at the end of this video. This is something Yusuf El didn't talk about. But Yusuf El points out that the judge will ask you if you understand the charges. You always say no to that. Why? Because you don't understand the charges. Charges, well, I need to think finances, like credit card and debit card. But anyways, the issue becomes this here. When you're dealing with a jurisdictional issue in law, Yusuf El doesn't deviate from the law side of things. Then what's going to happen is that judge is going to challenge your intelligence. Not much you can do about that. He's going to ask you your grade level and all this kind of stuff. I'm not a fan of interacting with this matter, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. But this is what he teaches. It's a fabulous tactic for them to deem you incompetent. It's a favored tactic for them to try to deem you as incompetent or some kind of buffoon of some sort. It's just a show. It's a play being played out. Don't get upset about it. There's no reason to get upset about it. He's doing his job to bring you into jurisdiction. That's all there is to it. But you got to stand true to what you're doing, because when a judge does something like that, you have the right to challenge him on his judicial code of conduct. He's not to act that way. He is the representation of the law. That's how it really represents out for him. It's one of these things where you got to understand he's held by a particular code, and if he chooses not to follow that code, well, you have a right to speak up. There's no reason for you to be bullied or intimidated by this. You got to keep in mind, they summoned you. You didn't volunteer. Now, at all times, remain calm. Stop before you answer and think about how you're going to phrase your sentence. You don't owe him an immediate answer. Be calm. Control yourself. Hold yourself together. Yeah, you're going to have butterflies. Yeah, your knees might shake a little bit. But you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. That guy pulls his pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. So you keep that in mind. His attitude might be different than anything you've ever put up with before. But let me tell you something. These people are not above you. They're supposed to work for you. That's not quite how that works out. So what I need you to do is keep in mind that the judge may or may not ask you what you don't understand. Here's your door. According to Yusuf El, you always point out that the Sixth Amendment of the United States affords me, through the Constitution, affords me the right to know the nature and the cause. Can you tell me the nature and the cause? The judge is going to freak out because he's not going to answer this. At the end of the day, even though Yusuf El doesn't talk about it, the nature in this country, because we have no real money and it's all in fiat and it's all about debits and credits, the nature is always about the tax base. It's about money. If you don't believe that, all you got to do is look up 27 CFR 72.11. It's always about that. So he's not going to answer that. He's going to obfuscate and get around that the best he can. So you might as well just get ready for it. So the issue then becomes, what are you bringing against me? You have to ask the question. It's the court's duty to tell me what's being brought against me. The judge may or may not ask you what you'd like to know. But either way, you must ask, is it civil or is it criminal? The question being asked for the record. When he answers criminal, and that's most likely what you're in court for anyway, somebody's trumped up some crime, you didn't pay a speeding ticket, I don't know, whatever the case would be. But anyways, and he's going to, when you ask, is it civil or criminal that's being brought against me? The reason is that in a criminal versus a civil action, well, there's very much different. Because in a criminal case, the Supreme Law of the land, the Constitution in Article 3, Section 2, only affords you two types of courts: common law, maritime admiralty. Why? Because even though it lists common law, equity, and maritime admiralty in the Constitution, equity is in civil. You think? Maybe. Probably not, but we'll get back to that at the end of this too. So when the judge says it's criminal, it narrows it down. So there's no equity case involved, according to what Yusuf El is telling you. And so it only leaves you common law and admiralty law. And why does this matter? According to Yusuf El, it's because you're standing in an Article 1 court. And they don't deal with criminal issues in an Article 1 court. And yet somehow they prosecute all criminal law in this country. How's that possible? How do they get that authority to do that? Because the Article 1 courts are not allowed to do that. That can only be done in common law and maritime admiralty. And yet we put people in prison every day in this country because they exercised an action in an Article 1 court. That's where the key to this comes into play at the end of the story for you, so pay attention. So, since they don't deal with criminal, they only deal with one thing: debt. That's right. It's all about money at this point, and that's equity. Yusuf El teaches you that in civil matters, a court cannot be a judge of their own actions. He brings that back to the fact that in the law it's written that when it comes to measures between states and citizens, it has to go to the Supreme Court of the United States. And when you go into that courtroom, the judge works for the state, the heading on your case is the state, and the prosecutor works for the state. And yet they somehow get you prosecuted. So they must be practicing something else in that courtroom. They never tell anybody that stuff. Well, anyways, because at the top of that piece of paper they're reading on is your all uppercase spelled name, and that's an entity. And so the entity of that criminal action shows up, and the Constitution grants this court only two criminal jurisdictions: common law or admiralty. That means that case needs to be remanded to an Article 3 court. But they don't do that, do they? No. The question is, why are they not doing that? A criminal action that constitutes a condition of contract of the criminal's aspect of a colorable admiralty jurisdiction. How about that? Yep, that's what they're trying to do in that court, pull off color of law. Which of the two jurisdictions in the court do you intend to try the action is what you're asking them. They're not going to send you to an Article 3 court. That's not how it works. I don't even know if there's any Article 3 courts set in every state. There is a few, but I don't know where they're at. The judge won't answer this question to you, and he will get mad. He'll start running his mouth. We've long been proven to have jurisdiction, and it's okay to say that, but you need to say, I don't have a problem with that claim, but I don't have any proof in the law to prove that, so I need you to give me the proof of that. You have the right to have that answer, and he has the duty to make sure you get to know it. You've got to get your answer. Don't be afraid. I need the proof. I don't want to hear your opinion. I need the proof. Show me the proof. That's a key to you standing up for yourself and saying, I'm not going to get run over by these people. And common law is declared that you have, if common law is declared in that courtroom by any chance, you win by default automatically, most likely because there's no sworn complaint by the injured party, and the state's not the injured party. It's a requirement of common law. That's why you're not going to hear that in a courtroom. Now, the injured party must also be present in a common law situation with that sworn affidavit must be present. They're not going to have those either. But the paperwork from the court is working from saying that the state is the one bringing a suit. So that eliminates the situation completely. See what I'm saying? Well, here's where things get kind of interesting. And this is where I part from Yusuf El. Or maybe Yusuf El is just not telling the story. Or maybe you got to buy his book to find out. I don't know what the situation is. But what you need to understand is that at every case number, there's a docket number on every case, is written on your credit. Sure is. They write bid bonds, performance bonds, and payment bonds right off of your minor account. What's your minor account? Well, you need to look that up. Our United States Code makes that very clear. You have a birth certificate and social security number? That's a minor account. It's a credit account. And they wrote those bonds off your credit. That's how this works. And so, with that birth certificate and social number in place, they think that they can write that off of your account without your consent. There's where the flaw comes into it, the fly in the ointment, so to speak. Nobody seems to know this. I guarantee you, more Americans know this, and all these veterans that stood for something, they come to find out they didn't stand for it all. They've been supporting this system. Yeah, this is about human trafficking and slavery is what this is about. It doesn't matter how you break it down. The court tries to make you the debtor of this. They use your minor account, write these bonds, trade them in, sell them on the market, and then you're in the court, and you're in Article 1 court that settles debt. You ever heard that old saying? You have a debt to society? You got to pay your debt to society. You ever wonder where that come from? You better wake up, because it has to do with how our courts operate, and it's all about money. So all them Marines around the world, and them soldiers, and them sailors, and them Air Force boys, them Coast Guard boys, and them National Guard boys, and, well, they don't know that they're serving this system, because nobody talks about the system. It's a secret. The fact of the matter is, this system is in the business of selling the souls of men, just like the Bible told you it was. So, what it comes down to is you're standing in a case is you're the beneficiary. Why? Because when they do this, they create what's called an implied trust. It's a trust. It's an implied, I don't know why I would forget that, and resulting trust. So you might want to look that up. So what it comes down to, maybe I've got it written here and we'll remember that, but it's an implied trust is what it is. And you're standing in this case as you're the beneficiary because they used your minor account to draw from. So in a trust format, and that's what the case creates, a trust. Whether you know it or not, it creates a trust. Every time you walk into court, every time you got a speeding ticket, it created a trust. They wrote bonds on that trust. But you're not the trustee of the trust. They try to make you the trustee, but you're actually the beneficiary. You sure are. Now, here's what the 14th Amendment, where the 14th Amendment comes into play. This amendment makes it clear that you have due process and equal rights under the laws. And this is why a citizen is the beneficiary. We don't have real money anymore. It has to work off debts and credits. So how does it work off of? What's it work off of? It works off bonds. That's exactly right. But once law and equity got all blended up in 1938, things changed substantially. And we went off the metals market, the dollar, went off the metals market, the gold and silver and all that stuff. That shifted in 1971 under Nixon. And that changed the whole rule. So since 1971, for 55 years now, roughly 55 years, over 50 years, things have been gradually changing. And people don't understand what's going on. The court cases create a debt obligation. And this is tied to the 14th Amendment debt clause. To fully understand what's going on, you must understand that the United States Constitution is a trust instrument. Most people don't realize what the Constitution really is. It's the rules of the trust. It always was. It always will be. Most people don't understand it. It's a trust agreement for the American people. And the American people are the beneficiaries of that whole trust design. Yeah. You're not the trustees. The politicians you elect set those seats. The judges. All these elected officials set in the position of that. You are the benefactor. It's all about a trust. The whole system's about a trust. And you're the beneficiary of that trust. Everything you know of in life is a trust. The court is treated like a public trust. It's in the preamble of the judges in the state of Indiana, and it's most likely in every one of your states too. It's a trust concept. It doesn't matter what you think. The court case is an implied, expressed. That was the word I was looking for. Implied, expressed, and resulting trust. The concept of resulting trust is when the beneficiaries can't be found. That's what they're trying to get you to do. They're trying to get you to give up your position of beneficiary. They can claim beneficiary not found. You get it? They get you to take on the role of trustee. In the law of merger, it's a legal concept of the rule of merger. It works like this. If you hold the role of trustee and benefactor, it collapses the trust. Now you're the sole owner, and now you're the debtor. And whether you know it or not, when it says defendant and debtor are synonyms in this case. You're not the debtor. You didn't create the debt. You're the benefactor of this, or beneficiary of this, not the benefactor. You're the beneficiary of all this. The benefactor is the one who creates the trust. Now the one that moves its money from into this new trust before those bonds, well, that's the judge. He's called the transferor. Now you need to identify who the trustee is of this trust if you're the beneficiary. That's the key to this whole argument in your courts, whether you know it or not. This is why you must declare your state of entitlement. That's right. You are entitled as the beneficiary. And like with any trust, there must be a trustee. And if the trustee cannot be found, the court has the right in the laws to assign a trustee. And you must declare you need your trustee brought forward. It's exactly how a probate court works. Every one of these court cases, whether criminal or civil, a speeding ticket to murder, is the same concept. Period. Across the board. It doesn't change. And as the beneficiary, you have a fundamental legal right to demand a detailed accounting of the trust. You have the right to say, bring forth the accounting. And you ask yourself, accounting of what? The accounting of the funds and where all the monies have been spent. They created bonds on your account. You have the right to tell your trustee to show you the books. More often than not, that trustee is a clerk of court. But it could be the administrator or a magistrate involved or an executive for the court. Depends on who they assigned it to. But you have the right to demand of that judge, I am the beneficiary, bring forth the trustee. Why? Because they wrote bonds on it. And you can get your hands on the proof that those bonds exist. They're called QSIPs. And that tells you where they lodge those bonds. Every state does it. Every federal court does it. They all do it. That set up an implied, expressed, and resulting trust. There's no getting around it. So this is where bonds all come into play. So you have to make sure that you tell them always, I am the beneficiary and I need to see the bid bond. You need to see the bid bond. You need to see the bid bond and you stand on it. Don't let the court move forward. Stand on it. Bring in the trustee. I need the bid bond. We have to have an accounting of the books to settle all accounts. They're trying to hold you as a debtor, remember? You have the right to tell your trustee to settle that debt. That's how the system really works, but no one exercises that right. This is a farm boy. It doesn't matter if you agree with me or not. The fact of the matter is our Bible is written from front to back in trust stories. If you could understand something besides all the stuff the church has taught you and get that out of your mind and understand how this legal system of debt and credit works, you would understand. If you're the defendant, you're the debtor. And that's what they're claiming. You owe this money, pay it. Otherwise, we're going to put you in prison for it. That's how it works. You have to wrap your head around the fact that everything you thought you knew about how law works in this country and throw it in the trash. Lawyers are taught how to argue statutes. Lawyers represent you. You are in a position of beneficiary. A lawyer represents you to the court as the debtor. You keep that in mind. That's how it works. You're not the debtor. You didn't create the problem. You're the benefactor. It's you who's supposed to be getting the benefits of those minor trust, that minor trust account. But it's them who's using your credit, selling bonds, making money on it, and then holding you responsible for the one to pay the bill. How would you like it if I went down to the car lot, bought me a new pickup truck, and handed you the book to pay for it? Essentially the same thing is what's going on. But if you say anything in any court under any action, I'm the owner. You're not the owner. You can't be the owner. You collapse the trust when you do that. You take the role of trustee and beneficiary and merge them. Trust collapse. You're the debtor. You lose. That's how it works. So, even though Yusuf El tells a brilliant story about you arguing with the judge on the Sixth Amendment and Article 3 courts and all that stuff, that's all fine and well. But the judge is never going to tell you the nature because it comes back to money, debt, taxes. It's all about finance. Go and take a look at that. This is a farm boy. Let me know what you think about this. It's really how it's set up. And having been 5 years in the United States Marine Corps and served my country off American soil on foreign land with a gun in my hand, I'm telling you, it's life-changing to find out that everything you believed in was a lie. So if you're one of those flag-whipping, pro-orange man, pro-auto pen guys, whatever your personality is, and you spent time in the military, and you're barking about which football team's going to win the Super Bowl or which college team's going to be the next champion, if you're worried about going to your kid's soccer game and you don't understand the world you live in, well, don't complain when it crushes you because that's exactly what they're trying to do to us. It's not what you think it is. And it's kind of sad. This is a farm boy. I'll talk to you another day.